Adam is our speaker tonight. Adam Corrao is the owner and lead developer at Corrao Designs, a website design and development agency with a focus on user interface design. Starting in late 2016, after running an e-commerce website for a few years, Adam found a passion and joy of web design, leading him to launch Corrao Designs. Corrao Designs has seen consistent growth since launching, has 14 members, and works with clients all around the country. All right, so go ahead, Adam, take over and do your thing.
Appreciate it. Just by the way, I only have four people working for me, including me. So you have 3 additional, not 14. Not that big just yet, but I just want to clarify.
I said 4, but I kind of went fast. So we're just
thinking positive, Adam. We're thinking positive.
Yeah, we're planning ahead for you.
Awesome. All right, let me share my screen here. Let me kind of cover the big part of kind of the intro to this, but pull this up. So, all right, perfect. So, so as Spike said, we're going to kind of go over the 8 common website issues that I notice a lot and how to resolve them and how to fix them. A little bit about me, as Spike mentioned, so I started my first company at 17. I sold iPhone accessories online. It was a store called Ear Hipster, and I even had a little stint where I had a kiosk up at Crocker Park for a year as well. It was doing good, but as I kind of owned the store, I kept finding myself going through and optimizing it to make it better for my visitors and better for conversions, while learning more code kind of along the way to enhance my craft and the store itself. Even when I started, before I really had any web design experience, I knew that I couldn't use a free template that everyone else used. I had to get a paid template and really build that out. And before I knew it, my favorite part of running an online store was the sleepless all-nighters I would pull till 6, 7, 8 in the morning, where I would just be messing with the code of the site, the design of it, making it better for the user interface, the journey, and for conversions. And that became my favorite part of it. So my marketing channel started to sort of slow down a little bit with it. And instead of trying to find new marketing channels and new sales channels, I sort of let that store slow down and ended up closing it. And at the same time, opening Corrao Designs, which is my website design agency, where we focus WordPress, Wix, and Shopify platforms and focus on user interface design. It was funny, and kind of one of the ways I knew I had to start this and really make it official was when I was meeting with, I think it was my second or my third client. And they had a receptionist at their company office. And they asked me, where are you from? Like, I knew what they meant, what company am I from? But I didn't have a company name. So I said, Parma, because that's the city that I lived in at the time. So it was kind of at that point where I'm like, I should probably get a company name here, get an LLC, and make this thing official. So at that point in late 2016, early 17, I believe January 2017, I got the LLC for it. So I have a brief video here, kind of about 3 minutes, kind of going over my company, what we do. It was made by Flex Media up there in Cleveland. There's actually a special guest in here that I hope he's still in it, but was in or is in CB Pug. If you can't hear it, let me know. Hopefully this works and you can. Can you hear it? Yeah, awesome. Jeff Poplar, you know him?
I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, I didn't mean to restart it. So you said you weren't hearing it?
No.
Oh.
When you share your screen, you have to make sure you click on the share audio button.
Got it.
I think there's another button you can click after the fact if you forget it, but I'm not sure where that is. That's a new, that button got added recently. So you may have to unshare your screen and reshare it for the audio. And then there's a button for audio. That's within Zoom. So unshare
Unshare and reshare. Okay. Give me 1 second.
And reshare. And look in the bottom left corner. Well, I guess it depends on Windows. It's probably in the same place where you can click share audio.
Oh, here, I see it. Share sound. Perfect. All right. Oh my God. I gotta enter a password and everything. There we go. Try that again.
Got it.
Awesome.
The website is pretty much your number one digital asset. And when someone's looking for your service, they like to go online, they like to Google you, and you want to make a good first impression. So having a website that's very strong, that's very professionally built around your company and for your visitor is very important to have done right. It's very easy for a company to go to a DIY website builder, and there are some great platforms out there to build a website on that are DIY. But the problem is when you have someone who's not a professional designer or developer building a website, then you lack a lot of what you need to include in a website. So, there might be some uneven spacing, it might not be mobile optimized, it might not include the right features, it might not be secure.
There's lots of website providers out there. I think what really makes Corrao Designs a good choice is that not only are they going to give you a website that is really aesthetically pleasing and represents your brand, but they'll also make sure that it works and it performs well.
When we build websites, we don't just build a website that looks good, we build a website that's very powerful as well. So we like to incorporate the user journey throughout the website, and when we incorporate that into the user interface, it makes it more powerful. It makes it easy for the visitors to go from point A to point B in the quickest, most efficient way. So you're not just getting a good-looking website, you're getting one that really is powerful and is built not just for your company, but it's built around your visitors as well.
The way our website was, it used to take a really long time to load for the client, to switch from the products to the cart to the completion of the checkout. And he's really increased the speed of that process for the customer. And then also him doing that for us makes sure that nothing slips through the cracks. It streamlines our ordering process. Instead of receiving texts, phone calls, and emails, everyone just orders online and we just have to go to one place to check in. So it's absolutely crucial what we do.
Corrao Designs is a website design and development agency that builds and develops websites for the new age. We really like to focus on the visitor and incorporating the whole entire experience and journey within the website.
Awesome. So that's just a little bit about kind of my company and what we do. So. All right, so now to get into the meat of the presentation. I don't know how to work this. Here we go. All right. So as we discussed, it's the 8 most common website issues and how to fix them. So the first one is the website taking too long to load. And that's what I usually see the most and people have a lot of issues with. The most common way to fix this is to decrease the size of your images. Typically the media files is really what is taking up most space on the site, what's really causing the site to slow down. So when I say to decrease the size of your images, there's a couple of ways I mean this. So the first one is stock images. When I'm pulling a stock image from a site or just any image you have, I'll notice that some of them are massive. They're like 50 megabytes just for the image, which is just too big. You don't need it that big. So what we'll do is we'll decrease the image size to maybe 20, 40, 100 kilobytes, which really helps with the speed of the site, having images and media that is smaller in size than their highest quality format. The second is that the image sizes should fit the containers that they're going to be in on the website. So if you're going to have a container on the website that is 500 by 500 pixels, you don't want the image to be 2000 by 2000 because now the website has to take time to process that image and make it fit that container. So you want it to be 500 by 500, maybe a little bit bigger, 550 or 600 pixels. If you're using using video, I recommend using a third-party host such as YouTube, Vimeo, or another host, because that way, instead of having the videos directly on the website and having them take up that space and having them load when you go to a page, your website is loading the content of the website and not the video now if you have a video embedded from YouTube, for example. So typically I recommend having your videos on YouTube or a service like that and then embedding them into your website. Another way you can increase the speed of your site is using a CDN or a content delivery network to cache and store the content. And so what this means, if you take a look at this image right here, you'll see there are a few different icons. I don't know if there's a way to zoom in, but hopefully you can see that. You'll see in the middle here, there is this kind of orange server icon. you'll see throughout there these blue server icons, and then you'll see that there are these computer icons as well. So what this all means is that your website's hosted, on the server that it lives on, which in this case is this orange little server in the middle of the US. If you have someone from Europe who tries to go to your website, it might take longer to load, because even if it's a few milliseconds, because it has to go, across the world over that server. So what a CDN does is it essentially stores certain website files or images or whatever it might be, and it loads them on the server closest to the visitor trying to access the website, which helps to decrease load time. So CDN is a great way to help decrease the load time as well, especially for media files such as images. All right, tip number 2 is the contact info is hard to find. You want to try to make it really easy for someone to contact you and find out how to contact you. A huge recommendation I have is to make sure that your contact page is in the navigation menu, which you'll see here inside this red rectangle where it says talk to us. So this is our website here, and you'll see that we have our contact page right in the header and the main navigation menu. I'll also recommend, if you're able to, adding your contact info in more places in your header. So you can see up here in the top left corner, we have our phone number and our email as well. And what's nice about this, at least on our site, is our header stays at the top of the screen. It's a floating header. So it stays at the top of the screen as you scroll down the site. So no matter where you're at on the site, our contact info is right there for you to access and for you to use if you want to reach out to us. So you want to make your contact info very accessible. And then if you can, possibly have a live chat widget as well, which we have here in the bottom right corner. So you'll see, right off the bat, when you land on our site, we have 3 locations to contact us. And these are all, there throughout your visit as well. We have the live chat. We have the contact page here where it says talk to us. And we have our contact information up in the top left corner within the header. All right. So tip number 3 is the site doesn't look right on mobile. You want to make sure that your site is optimized for mobile as well. And you'll see that most website builders, they have a desktop editor, but they also have a mobile editor as well. And this is important because as you're designing your site by default, you're designing the desktop version of it. So you'll need to check your design on mobile as well, because some elements might look good on desktop, but they might not look good on mobile. And just kind of illustrate what I mean, let me close out this presentation real quick. So I mentioned earlier that I do some kayaking here in Las Vegas, and one of my clients is actually the kayaking company that I use. So they're called Adventure Child. And as you see here, you scroll down the site, everything looks good on desktop. You can read it all. It's very easily and cleanly presented. But if I go to this mobile version of it, you'll see that there's no navigation menu up here. This text is broken down here. This is getting, the Google logo is getting covered up. And the reason is because, we're in the process of building the site out. So near the end of the project is when we'll go ahead and optimize the site for mobile. So because we haven't gotten to that yet, you'll see that, if we launch the site as it is, it's basically broken on mobile. So as you're building your site, make sure that you do have a focus on mobile as well, especially now where that's where most people are visiting, from. They're visiting from their cell phone. So make sure that you really focus on your mobile version as well as you're building your site out. And as let's see, sorry, I don't know if I had another note on that. That's all I got on number 3. Number 4, the website's hard to navigate. You want to be able to point visitors in the right direction on your website. Your goal is to get visitors from point A to point B in the quickest and the most efficient way possible. They should not have to think where to go next. It's your job to guide them and to direct them on that website journey. You'll see here that in this image, this is a website that we just launched recently for a company called Covest. This white section is at the bottom of a lot of their pages, especially their service pages. And this blue section here is their footer of the site. So by having this contact us bar here at the bottom of the service page, as they're kind of done digesting the content, they'll see if there's an option to contact them without having to try and find their contact info, scroll back to the top, search for it throughout the site, because we have this call to action right here in a convenient spot. So be sure to focus on placing call to actions around the site. Another thing I like to do, and going back to our website here, is having a floating header. So this is our website here, and you'll see at the top we have our header, but as you scroll, and as I mentioned before, it stays with you. So as someone's scrolling the website, you can see all the important pages up here, our contact info, and it's easily accessible for our website visitors. All right. And my last note on that is every second counts. It really does. Even if someone's on the site or on a page for a few more seconds than they need to be trying to figure out where to go next, that can result in them leaving the site if they become too confused or spend too much, brain power kind of thinking about, where and how to go next. So remember, every second counts, and that's really important to think as you are optimizing your website. All right. So tip number 5, it's unclear what the website intent is. You want visitors to know right away what the goal and what the intent of the website is. It's easy to get caught up in writing too much information. You're an expert in your field, right? You're your business owner. So you know everything there is to know about your business. And you want to make sure that people on your site know that you know. But when you're writing this huge block of text and this huge wall of text that is 8 or 10 paragraphs long, what if it can be, shortened down to just a few sentences or to one paragraph? You don't want people reading too much unnecessary information because it might be somewhat of a content overload and they might not be able to digest it all. And they might end up, just leaving the site and go somewhere else where it's easier to access and to read. Or in the case of this other website here, you might have too little. And what I've noticed, I'm going to show you this website here in a second. What I notice with most websites are good. They're easy to navigate, but some websites, they try to push the envelope a little too hard. They have too much focus on the experience of the website and try to make it cool, modern, and have a lot of images or have a lot of scrolling effects, but it's not easy to navigate or you don't understand what the website's about. So let me show you this website here I found, if I can make my computer work for me. There we go. So there's this company here, okay? This is their homepage. This is what you see right away when you land. You scroll down, okay, well, let's see what they do. You scroll down the high line. Okay, you might think they do architecture or they design spaces here. You might scroll down a little bit further down the page. You'll see down here, there's this mile-long opera, which looks like an art exhibit. So if you don't know what these people do, well, you can only assume what they do. Now I'm trying to figure out what they do, and there's no way. When someone comes to your site, it should be known right away what your company does, what your organization does, what your goal is, what your mission is. And right when they land, they know, okay, this is either the place I need to be or this is the place I don't need to be. And when I land on this site, well, it's all left to assumption, which isn't good enough. So you want to be sure that your site intent is clear, and that's definitely very important. I can't recommend that enough. Let's put this back on here. Your goal, you want to keep it clean, relevant, and to the point. There's a saying I love right here, the KISS saying, keep it simple, stupid. Again, sometimes you don't need to expand too much on what you're doing. You want to keep it clean. You want to keep it relevant. You want to keep it to the point, because if you have too much, visitors might get bored. They might not want to read it all. It just might be too much. Or in the case of a website, it just showed you might be too little. So remember, keep it simple, stupid. That's it. All right. Point number 6, the website structure isn't clean. Now, you want to work towards fixing the spacing, alignment, and sizing and content issues as well on your site. It's important to keep your style parallel between different pages and elements on the website. So if, let's say, one page header on your website is centered and on a different page, the header is aligned left, well, that might look sloppy. It might look unprofessional. So you want to keep your styling consistent throughout the website. A good way to do this is to make a note of your element styles. So if you have, let's say, paragraph text, and on one page, the paragraph text is 18 pixels, it's black text, it's regular font weight, but on a different page, it's 22 pixels, bolded, green font. It's inconsistent. So keep note of your styling for your elements, especially the headers and the paragraph text, and make sure that you utilize that same style and the same design throughout the site for those elements. And as well, spacing. That's a big thing I see too. Typically, you want to use the same amount of spacing above and below on elements. Not all the time, but if you have an image block, you don't want 10 pixels of white space above it, and then 100 pixels of white space below it. In some cases, it makes sense to have different spacing depending on what you're trying to achieve with your layout and your design, but you want to try and keep your spacing and your structure even, clean, and consistent. All right. Number 7, the images and graphics are low quality. So you want to look for high quality stock photos, or even hire a photographer if you can, for custom photos. If you do use stock photos, which I mean, I do on most of my client sites because a lot of clients don't have images, you just want to make sure the images are natural. Okay. I can't tell you how many images I see or how many websites I go to, and you see the stock images of, like 8 people staring at the camera, giving a thumbs up or something like that. It's just weird. It scares me. So you want to keep it natural. Okay. You don't want to make it too stock looking. And I mean, you'll know as you're looking throughout photos, you'll know what looks natural and what doesn't. Keep it consistent with your brand as well, your brand identity and your colors. You can find free, I like to go to Unsplash or Pexels to find free stock images. They're free for commercial use. And those are some of the sources where I mentioned before, the images might be 10, 15 megabytes when you get them. So be sure to scale them down before you just throw them in your website. So I like using those. I also use Envato Elements, which is a paid asset. It's about $150 a year, I believe, but you get access to a ton of assets. So stock images, videos, audio, graphics, icons, things like that. So that definitely helps a lot, as well as you're trying to find assets for your website. And even your phone too. If you have a newer phone, you can probably use that as well just to take photos for your website. I mean, I think it's the Google Pixel. They just released a new phone where you can erase people from the background or things from the background that you don't want there. I mean, it's crazy what you can do now with your phone. So yeah, most newer phones are good enough to use for photos for your website as well, if you want to take your own. Number 8, the navigation menu is hard to navigate, which obviously you don't want. That should be easy to navigate. You want to have key pages in the navigation menu. You don't need all of your pages on there. You don't need unnecessary pages, just the important ones. What you can do is you can have your important parent pages in there and then have sub pages or a drop-down menu as well. So for example, if you have a main service page, you can have all of your services sort of listed in there, but maybe you want individual service pages for more specific services that you want to expand on. Well, in that case, in your navigation menu, have the main service page, and then when you hover over it, you have a drop down with the different supplemental pages on there for those individual service pages. Now, you want to be careful with that though, because that's sort of the hub for your website. That is where visitors go to rely on for their journey throughout the site. If the links are unclear, if there are too many of them, again, the visitor may be confused and leave. And you'll see me saying that a lot, that they might get confused and leave. And that's the thing. You don't want to confuse them. You want to make it clear, what they're doing on the site, what your website does. And you want to try and not confuse them, because then they might get scared and they might leave. So you don't want to do that. Let's see here. I want to go back to this website, this favorite website that we keep going to. Back to this design firm. I'm sorry. Hopefully no one knows anything about this firm because I keep going back to their site. But when you land on this, where's the navigation menu at? You see, okay, there's a news in the top right corner. There's their logo and an index right here. Okay, is the index the menu? I don't know. So you'll click on it. Okay, that is the menu, which is hard to find. Then you get there and you see on the left-hand side, you see this text. Well, on the right-hand side, what the hell is going on with this? It's backwards. Why is it backwards? And see, this is what I mean. Companies try too hard to be cool with their websites, but they're not functional. So you'll come here and at least, it turns the right way when you hover over it. But if you don't, it's just, I'm over here trying to read it backwards. And it's obviously hard to do. And beyond that, in the bottom left-hand corner here, so how do you contact them? Well, there's this tiny little menu down here with Project Studio Contacted News. And that's where you can go to find their contact info and how to contact them. So this is a navigation menu that's hard to navigate because, first of all, it's hard to find. And then once you get there, those pages are there. These links are just super small and tiny. And again, don't even get me started on this backwards text. I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. All right. So those are the 8 tips I have. I also have a couple of bonus tips as well. So number 9 anticipate mistakes. You want to try to understand how visitors will interact with your website and where you will need to provide feedback to them. Now, a great way to illustrate this is, so I keep going back and forth. I want to show you guys some examples. Going back to our website here, this is our contact form we have. And most contact forms, they provide feedback. But what happens when someone is on your form and they fill out, most fields, but they miss a field? So I'll put my info in here, put my name, put my email. I don't want to give my phone number. Oh, wait a minute, it's required. Now, that's important to have right here. This little red box is extremely important because it provides feedback now for the website visitor. If they try and hit submit and the website form doesn't go through, well, they won't know that because there's no feedback. So it's important to have this feedback right here saying that, hey, you missed a field, go fill it out and then go through. You'll see if I try to hit send, nothing happens. If I put my info in here, that's not necessary. Click send. Now I receive feedback up here in this green box saying that, thank you for contacting us. We'll be in touch shortly. So now you know that the form was filled out because, kind of going back to what I was saying about the failure message, if you fill out a form and it goes through, well, what happens then? A visitor doesn't know that. You have to tell them, hey, this worked. You're all set. You can move on. All right. So on that, the last little bonus tip I have is don't ignore the standards. They're standards for a reason. Design trends will change. Let me try that again. Design trends will change, but standards will typically stay the same. So you'll see down here in this image, you'll see Microsoft Word's menu bar before Vista and then Google Docs menu bar in 2015. They're different programs, different interfaces, different designs. But if you notice the menu, it's virtually the same except for add-ons and window. File, edit, view, insert, all that's the same because that's what people expect to see and what they know. So if you try to stray from that, they might get confused. They might not know how to use a system. It's standard and it's what people are used to. So that is my 8 kind of most common website issues, as well as a couple of bonus tips. And that's the end of the presentation. So here's my contact info and website if you guys have any questions or want to talk. And then also want to open the floor up to you all as well. If you have any questions right now.
There's been some in the chat, Adam, that I can cite to you if you'd like.
Sure.
First of all, do you still get your coffee?
There's still my coffee. Well,
that was awesome.
A little too much.
The question from Spike is, how do CDNs do with pricing? What are some popular ones?
So it depends. It depends where you go. I use a service called WPMU Dev, which it gives me access to a few different plugins for WordPress. That one's a little more expensive, but it's more for agencies to use. So that includes a free CDN up to, I think it's 50 gigabytes, I believe. So I use that. A popular one is, where are we at here? I'm trying to share my screen. A popular one is Cloudflare. Let me find their pricing real quick. And I mean, it just depends on what you need as well. There are different cases and different scenarios. So
well, sometimes, if you're not a huge site or a lot of needs, it probably varies, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. And even some hosting providers include a free CDN as well. So the host that I use for all my clients on our maintenance plan, that has a free CDN. I know GoDaddy sometimes has a CDN. It just depends on the hosting that you're at and what plan you're on. But yeah, I mean, it can be anywhere from a couple bucks a month to, obviously just as you scale up a few hundred, a few thousand, if you really get to that point. If you have 96,000 images, then obviously it'll be a little bit bigger. So
that was a question on, gotta find it. That was a question, I think from Judy. She wanted to know if you had, or I think it was Judy. Was it you, Judy? Nope. Okay. Somebody wanted to know if you had any recommendations for hosts that you have favorite people that you like to utilize. Yeah.
So I like SiteGround. I use SiteGround for all of my clients. They're actually recommended by WordPress. So this isn't a case of using a WordPress site, at least. I like them. If you have a WordPress site, I would recommend getting managed WordPress hosting and not just normal business hosting. Managed WordPress hosting comes with more features, usually a CDN, an SSL certificate, which adds security to the site, which you do need an SSL essentially now. If you don't have one, what happens is a lot of browsers, especially Google, is you'll go to the website and it'll have a message before you can even go to the website saying this website is not secure. Are you sure you want to go through? And it takes a couple of clicks to find out, where to go and how to get to the site. So someone who doesn't know who you are, they obviously won't click through because they're afraid of getting a virus or something. So an SSL is very important to have on the website, and that's usually included with Managed WordPress. But
well, they tell you when you don't have one, and they will bug you until you get one.
Yeah. And that's one thing you definitely need is if you're going to take advice from the salespeople of these hosting companies is get the SSL. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I mean, SiteGround's good. GoDaddy is a big one. Honestly, I usually have a lot of issues with GoDaddy. They're very popular. They might fit your needs, but sometimes there are issues connecting different services to them. They control what you can and can't do. So they're good, but again, depends on your needs. So SiteGround is my number one recommendation, I would say, for a WordPress website.
Now, we'll say, if I may, years ago when I first started having a website, SiteGround was one of my first choices. So they've been around a while, and I found their support to be exemplary. And you always talk to people who you can understand, and I never did not get through an issue. If I had a problem, as silly and uneducated as I am about everything, there's so much to know, and they were just extremely helpful. So I would say, yes, I would recommend them as well. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
What's that name, Adam, at SiteGround? Like, I'm not sure what Cyclone. I'm not sure what you're saying.
SiteGround.
Yeah.
SiteGround.com.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
How does the live chat widget work for you, Adam? How does it work for you?
Yeah. So for me, and where are we at? I always go the wrong screen here. I was going to show you, but I realized I'm not sharing my screen. But basically the way it works is when you click on it, there's a way you can see a way to either contact us or also have an FAQ on there as well. So there's a way for people to, view some more common questions about pricing, the process, time frame. We use a third-party system called Hey Oliver. And what happens is if we are online, then we'll get the messages directly. If we're not online, if someone fills out the contact form, it will just send like a normal contact form. It would just go over to my email, and then we would contact them that way. So it depends on it. A live chat is good if you have someone to support it. It's also good, even if it's not a live chat, maybe have like an icon or a widget down there where if someone clicks it, there's a form in there. So it's just easier to access the form and easier to fill out, that form and reach you. So for me, and for any service, like I said, make sure that you have someone there who can back it up and can be online if you are going to have live chat.
So it's a clickable item. What does the service actually do? It may be a silly question, but.
So basically it allows that live chat. So I'll have, a screen open on my computer with kind of my dashboard on the third-party website. And then if someone goes on there and wants to chat, I'll receive the messages, in my dashboard to be able to, chat with them and respond to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Spike asked, does live chat text your phone or is there an answering service? You've kind of answered that. Okay. Now, you were talking about the difference between a desktop design and a phone design or a mobile design. The term is responsive site. Is that correct? Or is there a new term that I'm unaware of?
That's correct. You want the site to be responsive. So no matter, as you're scaling the website down from a large desktop window down to, your mobile device, everything still fits within the window. It responds to it, and it scales down to that appropriate screen size. But it's important to note that, kind of more what I was talking about was how a lot of these builders have different editor options. So you'll have a desktop version editor, and then you'll have a mobile version editor. Right. So it's important to kind of pay attention to both, but the end goal is to make the site fully responsive. So again, as you scale down to a smaller device or a bigger device, the website scales with you and still works as it should.
Spike, you said something about a serif font.
Yeah, I see reverse type all the time. That's really small and like large bodies of text with serif fonts, which I always find, I guess now that I'm a senior, it's hard to read. I don't know if that's me being like, I think I have an eye for design, but I don't, since I'm not really a designer, or whether that's really a valid complaint.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes beyond the font really. That's about how it's displayed. It's, does it fit in with the brand? Is it large enough to read? Is there enough, letter spacing or line spacing? That's the biggest thing. If it's, too small, then of course, it's gonna be hard for me to read as well. It's gonna be hard for everyone to read. So, I like sans serif. I feel like I end up using that a little more often, than not. But again, it just comes down to how is it displayed and how is it styled on the website, I think.
All right. Judy wants to know what you think of our CD Pug website.
I'm afraid to ask that question.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Let's take a look. Okay.
There you go, Adam.
Let's see. Is it cdpug? Oh, I got it right here.
Yeah.
I know I was there before. It's clean, easy to navigate. I like it. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. It's clean and it's easy to navigate. That's all it needs. And that's the most important part about it. You see up in the top right corner, that contact button. If you have any questions, you can do the same thing up in the top left-hand side. You have the contact email, social icon. So it's easy to reach out to you, to connect with you. And you see, I think, the three most important things: the membership and what that entails about the organization and the event. So yeah, I like it.
Well, yay. We're happy to hear that. We do have some issues from time to time, and we have a little committee that we're trying to work things out on our own. And I'm sure that solutions will come at some point, but they're little things that are kind of, we just want to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
But
Penny has a question about, have you used Themify themes with WordPress?
I have not used Themify, no. For all new website builds, we use Divi right now, unless the client has a preference for something else. When I first started the business, I would buy themes off of Theme Forest, which is owned by Envato, which is where I get that Envato element service from. And I would just modify that and customize it towards the client's needs. But now we just use Divi. We have lifetime unlimited access. So we just paid for it once, and then now we put on all the sites that we use as well. So that's what we typically use. But yeah, I haven't used Themify, no.
You mentioned Pexels as one of your free stock sites to go to. What was the other one?
Mm-hmm. So Pexels and Unsplash.
I have found awesome images on Pexels. I've used them a number of times. So, and they're good. I mean, they're just good, sharp, nice looking images, good lighting, good color, so for anybody who's looking to figure out what to do with their design for just about anything, really, Pexels is a good thing. I've not been to the Splash site.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one as well.
How do you keep from getting overwhelmed with plugins? Like, we're using this calendaring program on our site, and it's like kind of complicated. So I imagine we'll get it all figured out, but it takes some work to get good at it. So how do you have a trade-off between like being flexible and being really good at knowing what the plugins do, so you can do a good job with your site?
Right. So, a rule of thumb is to not have too many plugins. Don't have, more plugins than you need. So, as throughout owning this business and the agency, we've used a ton of different plugins, and now we have a suite of plugins that we use. Mary, I see in the comments that you mentioned Smush. That's actually one of the plugins included with WPMU Dev. So that includes that image compression plugin, includes Hummingbird, which is a speed plugin, Defender, which is a security, Smart Crawl, which is SEO. So I already have a kind of a suite of plugins that I use for most websites. But as clients need, something else, I know Mary and I were working on a project here, and we need to find a classifieds plugin. And so we had to go through and find different solutions and see what would work best for the client, and just doing research, seeing if it's, reputable. And if a big thing too, and this is a big recommendation and to keep in mind, when you're looking through plugins, And actually, can I share my screen real quick? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I'm just going to go to WordPress, to the WordPress plugin directory here. And this looks the same pretty much within the WordPress backend as well as you're looking at plugins. And here, I'll just click this one right here. So as you're looking at plugins for WordPress, you'll see all this information here in the top right corner. This is very important to look at, the last updated right here. You'll see that it was last updated a week ago. If you're looking at plugins and you see the last time it was updated was 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, well, it might not be managed anymore. People might not be working on the plugin anymore. So as you're going through, keep an eye out for the last updated time, keep an eye out for the active installations, and then this is important to test it up to, this is the current version of WordPress. So understanding that, hey, it works with your current version of WordPress, it's being maintained, a lot of people use it. That's important to keep an eye out as you're looking for plugins for your website.
One problem I ran into was WordPress always wants to update itself to the most current version, which is sensible, right? I had a plugin on another site that I was working with, and it kept saying it doesn't work with the newer version, doesn't work with the newer version. So that speaks with what you just said about if they aren't updating their plugins, then you probably want to stay away from it. But the problem is if it was already there and you're using it and you like it, then what do you do?
Yeah, I mean,
find something else.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it still works. Hopefully it'll soon be updated. I mean, that's if it says it's not compatible, but it says it was last updated, a month ago, then it's still being worked on. And chances are it might still work with the new WordPress version. But that kind of something you have to be careful with as well. And it kind of goes to even when you're updating plugins or your theme or your WordPress core, is that, if you have these plugins, they're all working together, they're all working in harmony, and then you update them and there's this new code or new functionality added to one of them, and now they're sort of conflicting and there are issues with it, then your site might break. So I would say just because it says it's not compatible or has been tested to work with it, doesn't mean it's not compatible. But what I find more important than that is that when was it last updated? That's the key thing I look at all the time when I'm looking at unknown plugins.
Are you familiar with rollback?
Mm-hmm.
That works for me. Really
yeah,
well.
That helps.
If something breaks, I just roll it back.
Yeah, that or just having a backup. It's also good to have a backup solution on your site too that takes a backup.
Yeah. Most hosts are pretty attentive about that.
Yeah.
Okay, we got lots of messages going on here.
There's a question from Brian. There might be something else, but he's the last one, so he's easy to find. So Brian asked about what do you know about necessity of ADA compliance? Will there be standards that need to be met in the future? And I guess I'd like to extend that from ADA to now that I'm, qualified for Medicare, things for seniors, as far as vision or just things like that. I know I have a hard time seeing black on black now.
Yeah. So, I mean, going on that, a big part of it, and I've had clients reach out to me, is our site compliant? What do we need to do? A big part of it is just how it's built, honestly. Is it built right? Is it built using a good user interface? That's really what it comes down to, is can people read it? Can people access it, on different devices? Is it easy to navigate and read? Do you have your alt text set up on your images? So a big key to making sure your site's compliant is just building it right and having a good user interface. I like to use a tool called UserWay. It's free to use. And I'm just going to share my screen again. I kind of keep going back and forth here, but I know it's, I kind of want to show you guys just a real life example. So going to the Hunger Network here, this is one of my clients, and they asked the same question just about a week or two ago. And I installed this plugin that I have on a couple of sites here. So when you click it, it actually gives you different ways to enhance the website. If you have a disability or if it's hard to read, whatever it might be. So you can change the contrast of it. This might be easier for some people. You can highlight the links, bigger text. And what's nice is that this UserWay plugin is actually free. They do have some paid options, but it's free to set up an account and to add to your website. And then if you want to get more features, you could pay for it. But I definitely recommend that if you're really trying to become ADA compliant, besides having a strong user interface on your website, using a tool like this definitely helps as well, especially if your audience, if you think a big part of your audience or some of your audience might need to rely on a tool such as that to access your site.
That's good to know.
What was that called again? It was called?
Yeah, it's called the User Way. And here, I'll put a link in there as well in the chat here.
Okay, and I have a question for you while you're doing that. How do you balance between like creative design? I don't know. I guess I would call it production work. Like I guess in the days of traditional agencies, there was like the creative director and then the art director, and then you had production. And it seems like it's getting kind of like that with websites too, where there's a lot of back end management that needs to get done, and the end user, like the customer, isn't necessarily set up to do that very well. So do you have like design, you build for design, and you have like production. I don't know if you call it production, maybe it's mechanical or something like that. So like can you comment about that?
Sure. Yeah. So that kind of just goes to our process. So the way my process works here is, so we'll start on the website. We'll design the header, homepage, and footer of the website first and get approval on that from the client, and then design the rest of the desktop pages, get approval on that, design on mobile, get approval on that. So we have a few milestones and steps that we go through. But as we're building out the site, I'll usually I'll design the site. If it's just me working on it, I'll literally just have a piece of paper and I'll just draw on it, what I want the site to look like, and I'll put that, I'll make that into the website, or my designer, Stephanie, she might design it, and then one of us might build it out. But in terms of the process, I guess it really just depends on, where I'm at with work, how busy I am. I like to try and keep it all within one. So if I'm designing, if I have some sites I need to create a design for, and I need to, draw them out, well, then I might do that all at one time instead of doing design and then going to back end work and then going to design. I like to try and keep it all within, doing it all at the same time, because it's just easier to stay within one mindset, and then, instead of switching back and forth between them. If that helps answer that question.
I guess I was thinking of production more like posting or maintenance, or data entry that maybe still requires some knowledge of WordPress but isn't design any longer. So is that something you can offer services to customers for that?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a couple of monthly plans that we have. One is WordPress hosting and maintenance, which is very important to have. So I always recommend that. But we also have a level up with that includes 2 hours of website edit work each month. And so we have a ticket system. So if a client needs anything done, if they need a new blog post added or a new page added or deleted, whatever it might be, they'll submit a ticket and we'll go in and make those changes. We also like to offer, if some clients want it, some clients don't care, but give some documentation, or to give kind of like a training session, like over Zoom or in person once the site launches, to teach them how to use WordPress, how to use, Divi, which is the theme builder that we use, and the theme itself, and answer any questions that they might have. So like in the case of, some of my clients, I don't want to be too specific, but some of my clients, they might be on that plan, and then, where they pay for 2 hours of work, and they might take care of some of the tasks, but then some of them they might send to us that they don't want to deal with, or might be too complex. So yeah, we do offer that, and that's something that we deal with a lot, especially after launching a website, is going in there and making some changes too, later on.
Okay, speak now or forever hold your peace. I don't see any more questions that haven't been asked, but I'm sure that I could think of more, but go ahead and put them in there in the chat if you want to, or even if you want to unmute your microphone and do it yourself.
Well, this is Allison. I've worked with Adam before. And still do. He's great. I push the limits on design along with my clients. It's been really great working with him. He's really knowledgeable, comfortable to work with, flexible, understanding. Yeah, so it's been awesome. And actually, I love the fact that he's migrated from Ohio over to another state, and it actually works out well. So I go to bed and he's awake, and it kind of works out nicely. I get a little extra time to pull things together. So again, I am grateful for his talent and knowledge.
I appreciate it.
I'm a fan of time change, Allison. I think it can work to your advantage, like you just said.
It really does. I think the pandemic, the remote concept, along with the ability to understand time restraints and flexibility, I think it really does work out well. And I have a writer who's been on the project with Adam. And so I've got my writer's in Japan and I've got Adam, on the other side of the United States. So, it's and he'll pop in over here at times too, which is great. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of neat, this whole global thing.
Yeah.
Just got done working with a client in Germany. That was a little rough.
I do get tired. I have to tell you it when I'm on the phone with my writer, when it's morning for him and it's about 8 or 9 for me. I'm wiped out.
Yeah, you kind of just got to know what your itinerary is going to be before you start talking. If you can get through all the topics, then you're good to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go to bed.
Punch list, get it done. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. There's one last question. I don't know. This is from Gary, so we might go on a weird tangent that we shouldn't. I don't know, but he asked for you to look at the website and comment for the Cleveland Memorial Society. So I guess he's looking for a site evaluation, but
let me just preface it a little bit.
Trial by ordeal.
Yeah, because I'm not a designer, I'm an accountant, and I've known Spike a while and got hooked up. Now I got myself, Adam, I may talk to you later in the week, but I volunteered for another treasurer job at this Cleveland Memorial Society. And I'm really, it doesn't want to change. I guess the neat thing is when people come to you, they want something in all of the stuff that you're talking about. And even I went a day or two ago to CD Pug's site and found a lot of stuff that I liked on it. So I like it. But this Memorial Society is, when we look at it, if we got a few minutes, Spike, but then, even though you have a site, you have to have people who are going to come to the site. I mean, you need both even if you had the greatest site, if nobody comes to visit you, it's no good. However, as you say, you're not going to spend very much time at all on a site you want to come to. And what we're selling is memberships for simple funerals or cremation.
Why don't you tell us what the website is?
I think it's just clevelandmemorialsociety.org. Well, Adam could go to it and put it on his screen. It's really not very good, but I got to be careful because I'll lose my job. I have to come back to something else.
There's plenty of people,
But you don't know where to go. Well, okay.
Well, this is good right here. Like I said, I recommend having call to action. So having, this join today button there in the header is good to have. Let's see how the header. Yeah, when you scroll up the header, it's another way, to have the header too. It stays with you as you scroll down, it goes away, but as you scroll up, it kind of comes back. Pricing information is good to have, I think, for sure. And it depends on what you do, especially for pricing. If it's a higher end service, you might not see pricing, but if it's something that, a lot of people are going to ask about, especially off the bat, it's good to have that because a lot of people, that might be the first thing that they click on is the pricing. So right now it looks like a newer, cleaner site. Is there anything in specific you said you just didn't know if there was enough there for people to kind of read and get to the point?
But sometimes I think when I know there's too much there, there's about why, back to the question of why you had that once, why do people come to your site? Why are they coming there for information? And then maybe to give the feedback. But okay, I don't want to use any more valuable time. Thank you.
I can look at it if you want to send me your email and information. I could take a look and give some recommendations if you like.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So Mary, why don't you take over and kind of wrap up for us?
Well, it's been a very nice experience. I think that you have an interested audience here. I think having some support of knowledge from you is a gift. Thank you for that. And I think it's given some people some ideas so they can move forward as well in their planning. Because it can be when you're a graphic designer, you don't know much about web design. It's a bit intimidating. So to work with somebody who kind of knows the nuts and bolts and is a designer, it's like, that's a double cool thing. It's like a double dip ice cream cone. So thank you for your time and thank you for spending time with us. We do appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I guess thank you all for being here. That was a great presentation, Adam. And stay tuned for the Week Encoded program for January.